Why is it that every time something disastrous happens, the internet's initial reaction is Islamophobic rhetoric? That's a question we had to ask ourselves again on Monday night after Ariana Grande's Manchester concert was the site of a large explosion. So today, we're here to discuss these perennial misconceptions on Teen Vogue's Pop Feminist. Hey guys, I'm your host Sandra Song, and today we're here with Amani Al-Khataba, author and founder of MuslimGirl.com. Amani, first of all, I want to just thank you for coming in today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think we should just start off with expressing our condolences, our deepest condolences to the victims and their families. I think, we should talk a little bit about the immediate reaction on social media. What would you say to these people?
Whenever a terrorist attack like this happens, Muslims are always the ones to be collectively blamed, and it is really unfair. I think that, when it comes to ISIS, of course they'll want to claim responsibility for an attack like this because they do want to drive fear into the hearts and minds of people that want to be living in peace. They do want to drive that wedge, that division between us. And so when we kind of play into that really is just like doing exactly what they want us to do. And it is a life or death situation for many Muslims that have to deal with an increase of attacks and hate crimes, especially in the media frenzies that come after terrorist attacks like this.
Right. I know you've also talked a lot about your personal experience as a woman who wears a hijab, and especially post 9/11 and during a Trump presidency. So what were your initial thoughts when you first heard about this?
I actually got the alert on my phone instantaneously, like when the story broke. And at first, it didn't register yet. Immediately I was like, oh my God, it's an Ariana Grande concert. Of course, these are children and families. And it of course hit close to home because a lot of my friends are like huge Ariana Grande fans and stuff like that. And then as it started to seep in, the very next immediate realization was like, oh my God, I hope that it's not a Muslim. And I think that is a reaction that's shared by a lot of Muslims because, I think when it comes down to it, Muslims are always correlated with terrorism, and we do have to face a lot of blame when it comes down to it, especially Muslim women that wear headscarves. We are walking targets, right? We have these targets on our heads. So because we are such a visible representation of people's understanding of Islam, we're usually the ones that are the lightning rods of that Islamophobia and that hate.
It's people conflating Islam and Muslim people as a whole with ISIS, which is a totally radical, offshoot that has absolutely nothing to do with Islam or its tenets, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, even if it did, even if ISIS claimed that they were Muslims, that has nothing to do with me. It's not my business. I don't care.
Right.
And that's kind of a double standard that Muslims that have to deal with regularly, right? It's the same thing as for me to go up to a Christian person and say, are you part of the KKK? What's the difference between you and the KKK? How are you not the same as them? It's just as ridiculous. And yeah, that's something that is such a norm for us, even for me, I literally get insulted with questions like, are you part of ISIS? Or get called names like that, even right here in New York City. The most immediate way to dehumanize an entire group of people is by making them one generalized monolith. And that's exactly what we're doing in this situation.
Right. And obviously these attacks are drawing a tremendous amount of anti-Islam sentiment. And so how has this manifested itself in the U.S., especially during a Trump presidency?
I think that this really is a perfect example of the way that Islamophobia results in a lot of these national policies that we see ripping families apart, like the Muslim ban, that are largely based off of these misconceptions about Muslims and a lot of inaccurate information about Muslims. And we can also see, how a Trump presidency has been absolutely devastating to marginalized communities like Muslims. We see how, all that rhetoric about banning all Muslim immigration and how, we conflate Muslims with terrorism and stuff like that. We can see how it plays out. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum, but it actually results in something as seemingly inconspicuous as the way that we choose to react to tragedies such as this one, right? And the way that we're able to so easily blame an entire population of 1.8 billion people for something that one individual committed.
Right. And that said, what can people do to be better allies to their Muslim friends in this time?
It's the responsibility of our allies to kind of check their immediate social circles, especially in the aftermath, like what we're going through right now. And to not allow, even just like your family at the dinner table to say stuff that is racist against Muslims, even if you think that it's not going to leave that table, it ripples outward. Correcting it is how that change starts, on a very individual basis. And it's a very simple but effective way that anyone can be an ally to Muslims, like right within their own homes.
Right. And it's especially difficult when we are living in this world, basically, where we have a media that tends to conflate terrorism and Muslims together. Yeah. There's a lot of bad information, bad reporting. What can we do to improve media literacy?
I think for us to consume media that was created by the people we're trying to learn about, by the people that we're reading about, by the people that we're trying to understand better. And that's kind of exactly what Teen Vogue did with the Ask a Muslim Girl series that they just won a Webby Award for. It was amplifying the voices of Muslim women, the ones that we're trying to understand and actually hear what they have to say. When we do that, that's really the best way that we can really give a platform to different communities that are otherwise underrepresented.
And then just as sort of an ending note for our Muslim viewers, what can they do to care for themselves in this really obviously trying time when all these external forces are coming together?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important for Muslims to put their safety above all else right now. I think that it's really important for especially Muslim women, especially those that wear headscarves, to take the precautions that they need to maintain that security. And of course, to remember that there is strength in numbers. So have a support system, check in on your friends, meet up with them and have these conversations openly and frankly if you need to. I think that that's the best therapy for us right now.
Thank you so much again for coming in. And to our Muslim viewers, stay safe out there. And we just want to extend our deepest condolences once again to the families who've lost loved ones in this tragedy. Until next time.